Let me qualify for the people that are watching this podcast. When you say the word bed, give us a little more description, because I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go take a nap in a few minutes. This is a very specialized type of bed.
This takes it to a whole nother level. There's one right behind me. And inside has 38,880 medical grade diodes.
I've now talked to lots of serious scientists that literally say molecular hydrogen inhalation therapy is the future.
You're watching the Wellness Podcast, and I'm Dr. Mitch Ghen, the Chief Medical Officer of Hue Light USA. I'm today talking with, if you just joined us, with Darren Schwartz, the owner and founder of Hue Light USA, and our chief salesperson, Roberto Beteta. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Mitch Ghen with the Wellness Podcast for Hue Light USA. I'm their chief medical officer, and I'm so glad to always bring you some amazing and fun content. I have two amazing guests. One is one of the owners and founder of Hue Light USA. His name is Darren Schwartz. The other is one of our chief sales person. And this guy is just amazing as well. His name is Roberto Beteta. I always call him close to potato because it sounds like that to me. But in either case, we're going to have a great time. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot of material simultaneously. I want to go to you, Darren, first with this podcast, because people are saying, what's Hue Light? I thought it was like Philips. I thought it was a bulb company originally when Roberto introduced me to you. So tell me a little bit about what is Hue Light? What took you on the quest to find this particular equipment? Because this was sort of out of your ballywick at the time. And what it means to you today, where you see where this is going. And we'll go into it in depth as we go along. Go ahead, Darren.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a biohacker. So I was looking for a red light bed. Red light therapy became very popular, and I want to have the latest and greatest technology. So I spent about a year doing research, and I found Hue Light out of Korea. And I discovered that they have an amazing bed and what I believe to be the best bed in the world. And then I wanted to buy one, and I couldn't because there was no U.S. distributor. So of course, as an entrepreneur, I said, there's an opportunity here. You have the greatest bed in the world. We need to bring it to the U.S. market. So I contacted Hue Light. I told them, not only do I want to buy a bed, but I want to buy all of your equipment, and I want to be able to sell this into the U.S. market. And that's how it was born. And thank God today we have all the equipment. I use it in my own home, and we're having some amazing, amazing results. Best move I ever made in a very long time.
Let me qualify for the people that are watching this podcast. When you say the word bed, you give us a little more description, because I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go take a nap in a few minutes. Tell us a little. This is a very specialized type of bed. So give us a little background on exactly what it is and what it does.
Sure. So our bed is a whole body light therapy. Sometimes you see on the internet, you'll see a little face mask. You'll see a little panel you can stand in front of. This takes it to a whole nother level. This is a whole body. So you get into it like a chamber. There's one right behind me. And you close the lid. You lay on this acrylic plastic, and then you close the lid, and it also has acrylic. And inside has 38,880 medical grade diodes. This light is much different than any other light therapy that you'll see on the market. Usually you see the bulbs, they look like little Christmas lights. Well, this is different. This is a medical grade diode. This bed is very special. What we have in this bed is we have the Nogier frequencies. Dr. Nogier discovered at the embryonic stage of development, there's 7 divisions in the embryo. And we use those same frequencies in our bed.
Wow. So like if I'm in that bed, I'm like, I'm growing. It's kind of cool. I like that. And I like your explanation. I appreciate it. Now, this bed is most of the time in the professional office. It's not a cheap thing. It's something that the physician or healthcare provider typically use it. Although there is a new model, we'll come back to that in a minute, that people will be able to use in their home as well. I'd like to go to you, Roberto, as pretty much the liaison to the professional community. If anyone knows physicians in this market, there isn't anyone better than yourself. I think the simplest question in the beginning is, how does this professional healthcare market viewing this type of equipment, how are they accepting? It's new. Darren and his partner just brought it in not that long ago. How are they integrated? How are you teaching these people about this type of instrumentation?
Yeah, a great question, Mitch, and thank you for that. I think one of the most important takeaways when I'm introducing it to the doctors is to understand the quality of what this bed is all about, because so many of these trade shows that we attend, you look at these photobiomodulation and these light beds, and as Darren mentioned, the bulbs and just about everything is very inferior. So I think the educational portion is a very big part of how I start. Because of the physical size of the technology, it's not something that is a hard sell. You really have to differentiate what you have from others. And I don't want to get sidetracked, but as you know, a lot of what we emphasize to all of the practices is really efficacy. So maybe you can touch on a little of how you and I started back when the technology that we use to measure baseline test patients, that's really the beginning of how I start introducing all of the Hue Light technology, is by saying we're not selling just something that is a neat toy. We're actually selling something that will make some significant change and improve patient outcomes. So that's kind of the positioning of it.
Makes it for a much easier sale, I imagine, when you're able to show someone that you have a piece of equipment that's unlike any other in the market and simultaneously has so much efficacy. You used a term a few minutes ago that maybe our viewers are not familiar with, which is photobiomodulation, meaning that this near infrared bed with the 38,800 different LEDs creates some sort of something that we're calling photobiomodulation. Darren, do you want to explain that a little bit, since you brought this technology, it excited you, and you brought this to this country? Tell us a little about what does that mean, photobiomodulation? What exactly is happening?
Sure. So we're basically mimicking the sun. The sun has different spectrums of light, and we're recreating these spectrums of light. So you have red light, you have near infrared light, and then we also use green light. So we're using a full spectrum. We do use UV light, but that's only in the sanitation mode. We don't put somebody in there. So if you go into a traditional tanning bed, that's a UV light. That light can burn your skin. So that in a tanning bed, the lights are farther away from the body. With this unit, we want the lights to be close to the body because we want the body to be able to get stimulated by the full spectrum of light we use in our bed. That's photobiomodulation. We make believe we're the sun. And today, unfortunately, people have malillumination. It's like you've heard of malnutrition. Well, malillumination means we're not going in the sun. We go from the house to the car, to the office, back to the car, back to the house. We're not outside anymore. And we have malillumination. And the body needs to have light to be able to have its bodily functions.
Sounds great. Well, I want to also make it clear to the people that are watching, people don't realize that without light, we can't live. We're not like a certain type of rat or mole rat that lives under the ground and never sees sunlight. We are literally required to have a certain amount of light, UV, and in this case, the near infrared spectrum. It's imperative that we do. And one of the things that near infrared really does in this photobiomodulation, which is extremely important, it stimulates our cells to produce energy. And you know, without energy, no one would be alive. So it literally is a bed of life. That's the way that I see it. Now, Roberto, when you're talking to the different doctors, healthcare providers, do they understand? Because, you know, they go from the model of being in either MD or DO school or ND school, podiatry, whatever, and they're going from the point of surgery, medicine. Is this well-accepted concept, or is it something, like you said, it's an education process? Is it a heavy education process for you to help these providers to understand this is something that you need more than medication, more than surgery, etc.? Or can they see it as part of the total aggregate?
I would absolutely say that it is imperative to educate. And I think doctors as a whole understand that. And you and I have produced boot camps in the past doing other things. So for me, if you want to help a doctor, you must educate them. And the education stems from the benefits, the applications, how to bring it into their facility. And I'm not just referring to the physical, but how do they monetize? So what we've been able to do at Hue Light is we've put a lot of effort into showing them kind of the business in a box model, how to take this highly differentiated technology, bring it in, and help their staff, educating their staff to learn how to position it. Because as you know, a lot of the Hue Light technology is a cash type of transaction. So this is not a reimbursable CPT code, ICD-10 code event. I think hyperbaric has some of that. So now what we're taking is some of the allopathic doctors that are just starting to get into functional and integrative. We're showing them a very, very dynamic path of how to make a difference with their patients. Because at the end of the day, what bothered me when I first got into the medical industry was there was way too much hype. I can do this, I can change this, I can, it just sounded like magic. And what I love is Hue Light sponsors a Masterclass 360. This is the differentiation. Obviously, as our chief medical officer, you're producing it, directing it, and leading it. But it's one of those things that's the differentiator for me, because it's not, like I said, this is not a hard sell. And I've been around the world of hard sells. This is something where you really teach them, they're grateful, and the next thing you know, they're making a lot of income, and they're saying, Roberto, I'm so pleased that you introduced this to me. And they're also taking lots of classes and seminars that we also sponsor and offer through your various lectures, Mitch, and a lot of things that you do. So
clearly, Roberto, the technology has so much to offer in spaces that we've never entered before. I think you started on a topic which I will ask Darren about now. He talked about the Hue Light technology. The technology is just not near infrared. There's a suite of technology. Could you just talk about that for a few seconds, Darren?
Sure. So the technology was developed by Dr. Lee in Korea. Dr. Lee was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he wanted to cure himself through complementary alternative medicine or therapies. And so he developed this protocol. We start off with a vibration plate, and the vibration plate will increase circulation in both the blood and the lymphatic fluid. Also, what it does is it separates the red blood cells. There's a sonic wave that flows through the body, and that'll get the red blood cells separated. When the red blood cells when they're separated, now you have the full cell membrane exposed to be able to receive the light for the next phase of the treatment. You go into the light bed, and the light bed is going to now wake up the mitochondria, because mitochondria needs two things to wake up, two signals, light and heat, and we have both of those. Now that the mitochondria is woken up, now you have to feed it. Mitochondria needs three things to be able to produce ATP, right? ATP is the energy source for the body. You need nutrition, which you should get from your diet or your supplement or your IV program. You need oxygen, you get that from breathing, and then you need hydrogen. Hydrogen comes from drinking good, clean water. Most people don't. Or if you have a good, healthy microbiome and you eat organic fruits and vegetables, that fiber will be metabolized into hydrogen gas. Now, unfortunately, most people don't have a good microbiome. So we supplement with hydrogen. So while they're in the bed, they're synergistically, they're working together because they're breathing into a cannula, a molecular hydrogen inhalation. And then after they go through that, then we take this beautiful medical gas that's flooded the body, and we go into the hyperbaric chamber, and we push this medical gas into all the cells that it needs to get into. Anytime you have scar tissue, you can't get any oxygen in there. That's why hyperbaric became so popular today with many different elements. And we push that oxygen and the hydrogen into different places where it can get to. That's the protocol. It's been amazing for Dr. Lee. It's been amazing for us here in New York in our corporate office. It's been amazing for doctors around the country.
It's very impressive. And of course, the suite's impressive. I think one other question that folks are listening to, and whether it's a practitioner or a lay person that will be listening to this particular podcast, you talked about 4 specific things. Each one sounds like they're important. Each one sounds like they're synergistic. I want you to just for a moment talk about the fact that these pieces are synergistic. There are practitioners, I'll go back to Roberto on this, that way take one piece here, one piece there. But for me as a clinician, the propagation of healthy cells requires all of these in a suite put together. So if you could just speak for that in a minute, and then I'll ask Roberto how he overcomes that issue. Someone may not have space for this one or that or whatever. And you sound wonderful. Keep it up. I'm just feel so good about you right now.
Okay, great. Thank you for the compliment, Mitch. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, yes, this is used in medical practices, but all of this equipment here can be used in someone's home. I personally have this in my own home. Yes, it's expensive equipment, and not everyone could afford a $110,000 light bed. But each piece has its own merit. But together, to Mitch's point, they work synergistically together, and that's the idea. Today, modern medicine has compartmentalized the human being, so we just focus on one area, one organ, one system, and that's just not how a human is. We need to look at the whole human body. We need to look at all the systems, the digestive system, the cardiovascular system, the neurological, all the systems has to be looked at. And we need to know about the physical and the emotional components because we are one whole body. And what this system does is it treats the whole body. It treats all of the systems. We get back to the way that the body's supposed to be instead of compartmentalizing and saying, okay, I'm just going to focus on the liver. Well, what about all the other things that attach to the liver? We have to focus on those things. So that's the beauty of this thing. It's a whole body treatment.
Yeah, and that's well put, Darren. The truth is, people are used to the subspecialty approach. Medical schools typically have gone that way. And we need to come back to the fact that the hip bone's connected to this bone, that old song. I know Roberto knows this song. I'll let him remind us. And by using a suite of products of this nature, you're literally sort of you're fertilizing the environment which the cells live in. All we are is an aggregate of 100 to 200 trillion cells, depending on who you read. What's a liver? It's a combination X amount of cells doing X function. Well, the idea is to create healthy cells, healthy looking morphologic cells, same times healthy function. These work together. Roberto, when you're talking to folks, and I know you and I have looked at this, some people, some of the healthcare, I don't have room for this. I'd like that. I do this. How do they pick and choose? And you, as really the front line of this company, talking to the practitioners, and I know that combination that Darren was speaking back is paramount for good health. How do you do this? And I know you're a great salesperson. You'll come back and they realize they need all, but how do you evolve that relationship basically?
What I try to do is really insert myself into their practice, understand the demographics. Obviously, you have to understand what type of disposable capital, to some extent, their marketplace and their demographics will allow to charge, et cetera. But I think it really does come down to, I'll just give you a perfect example. If they're doing IV therapy, let's just say I've met people that literally have 4 IV chairs. They don't have much more room than the 4 IV chairs. So just imagine that. They're not creating their own, they don't have a compounding pharmacy inside. So I immediately think molecular hydrogen and possibly the sonic wave vibration. For that, you don't really need lots of physical space. But to me, the important thing for every single one of the doctors is just to understand, why am I going to make this investment? That's really what it comes down to. How can I help my patient in a very substantial way? Because I've seen a lot of technology, and I know you know this, Mitch. We've known each other for many years, but I've been in the tech business for 45 years. So it was in the corporate business. But to me, medicine is really simple. If I can see the change in my patient, if I can see how this has helped them. I mean, I've got someone right now that just bought, as another example, for their home, they just bought a hyperbaric chamber technology. Now, I don't want to get too involved in what issues they have, but many of the doctors or business guys will open up, and in this particular case, they just were dealing with some neurological issues, and one of the top neurologists in the country recommended hyperbaric as the number one way to help them possibly entirely eradicate a very dangerous chronic disease. So I'm trying to not be specific, only to protect the individual if he ever watches this. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, so the balance of these doctors, I literally to date, as an example, we have doctors that have bought medical condominiums. They've expanded their leases, yourself included, Mitch. You've expanded the space because you see the value and you want, we call it the symphony. There is no one silver bullet that cures everything. We know that. And I think you described that well. I mean, you want your IV therapy. For some people, they want their bioidentical hormones, peptides, etc. But this not only enhances everything that you're doing outside of using the Hue Light treatment, but it's also incredible for recovery. Cancer patients that are recovering from chemo. You can speak to the science and the specificity, but I mean, that alone, people don't understand. There's a lot of pain and damage when people go through various operations. And so I'll let you talk about that. So I right now am really heavily into the neuro rehab and recovery space. Anyone that understands mild cognitive impairment knows that in this country, it is an epidemic. Traditional medicine does not diagnose mild cognitive impairment. What are people going to do? So anyone with early signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, and just, COVID brain, all of these different issues mean if you don't address it sooner rather than later, major issues start to occur. But if someone could diagnose it and you could start treating it, you could literally, even if you have a genetic predisposition, you could stave off the catastrophic chronic disease for decades. And I know, Mitch, you've been around all this and you've done all this. So I'd love you to share something about that, because that is, I can tell you right now, the neurologists in this country, again, not looking to insult or offend anyone, I'm just finding that a lot of them are focused on one track. They're on one road. They have no interest really in the rehabilitation side of this.
I wouldn't live without my suite of Hue Light anymore, because I've seen in so many different categories, like you said, from neurologic issues to cancer, even to skin issues, and we'll address some of them in a moment. You're watching the wellness podcast, Hue Light USA's podcast, and I'm Dr. Mitch Ghen, the Chief Medical Officer of Hue Light USA. I'm today talking with, if you just joined us, with Darren Schwartz, the owner and founder of Hue Light USA, and our Chief Salesperson, Roberto Beteta. We're talking about the fact that there is equipment, and I always say this, and it might be out of line, it's my opinion, it's about the closest suite of type of equipment and technology that we have that gets close to the med bed. And the thing that I can easily say as the clinician and the chief medical officer is, without this technology, we can't get as far as we are with these different types of individuals. Yes, we have many things in our functional toolbox, but when we added the Hue Light to our armamentarium, we made a huge difference, and the results became so much more prominent. Even something simple that you brought up, Roberto, like an IV, when the intravenous is introduced simultaneously in a near infrared bed, it literally has been shown to enhance that IV substantially. And that's only one example of the types of things that we're seeing. So this suite, Darren, of these 4 items that you brought over. I know they're constantly working in Korea on the next grade, the next step. Can you sort of let us in on a little bit of next step future stuff that's coming without giving away the whole store, so to speak?
Sure. So we actually just introduced 2 new products. The first is another panel. It's a light panel, but instead of a whole body, it's just a one-sided panel, and it's also 7 feet long, same size as the other one, but it's one side, and you lay on a massage table, and you can lower it down. It has a automatically motorized, lowers down, covers the body, really nice. So you're sitting on, a nice comfy massage table instead of a hard piece of plastic. So that's nice. The only difference is it's like a piece of steak. You got to flip it over. So you do 20 minutes on one side and then 20 minutes on the other. Where the whole body, you just do 20 minutes for the whole thing. So for someone who has, they're concerned about the price or concerned about space, this gives them another option, okay? And then also it tilts, the paddle tilts. So you can stand in front of it. If you have a patient, a client that's in a wheelchair, you can roll the wheelchair up to it. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility with people who are immobile, right? So that's a nice little device that we added. And that's the same technology with the no G's frequencies all built into it, the same medical grade diodes. The other product we had that just came out is something that's interesting. We are the world-class leader in molecular hydrogen inhalation. Our technology is far more superior than anything else in the market. Most stuff you'll find on the market, they use inferior parts. They're not food grade. When you're inhaling something, you're putting it into your body, you have to be concerned about oxidation and resting. So in the typical units you'll find on Amazon, they're using components in there that degrade. And when those components degrade, you're going to inhale those impurities into your body. And if you try to do something for your health, well, that's not something you want. We use in our hydrogen machine, we use white gold and titanium, very expensive metals, but they don't oxidize. We don't have a problem with the impurities that you're going to inhale into the body. So Dr. Lee had this brilliant idea to let's take hydrogen, who's already the smallest element on the periodic table, to take this and take it to a whole nother level. And what he developed was a product that now we're taking this hydrogen and we're nanoparticulating it into a 92 to 99 nanometer size, which is incredibly small. So anyone who's dealing with any kind of skin condition, we take this device and we have 2 components. And we take one probe, put it in the water, into the bathtub. It draws the water out. And then we have another one that the water comes out, looks like a shower head. You can spray it on your body. You could just immerse it into the water. And what that does is it's going to take this beautiful hydrogenated water and be able to condition the body. Now, we also know that the skin is the largest organ in the body, so it's going to absorb it as well. But if you have any kind of skin conditions, any kind of irritation, psoriasis, eczema, it's going to make that feel a lot better. Now, you know that those usually come somewhere else. That's a symptom. So it's something else going on. You still have to deal with whatever else is going on, but it does take the symptom away and it makes you feel better. And anyone who deals with any kind of skin disorders, they know the pain or the itchiness is very, very uncomfortable. And it allows you to have this, to give you this comfort. So those are 2 big products. Yes, we are working on some other things that are under wraps. They're, soon to come. Dr. Lee likes to, he wants us to keep everything a secret till we're ready to come to market. But those are 2 new things that we put on the market. But we have a few other products that we're working on that we'll show you in the near future.
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to understand a little bit more about the value of molecular hydrogen inhalation. And this is targeted at both the layperson, biohacker, and medical professional. I really believe that is going to become a huge shift even here in the U.S. I think I've now talked to lots of biochemists and some very, very serious scientists that literally say molecular hydrogen inhalation therapy is the future. And I think we should take probably a few lessons from our Japan and Korea already understand that it's the future. So it's deeply inserted at all levels, at the highest level of medicine in those countries. And then from there, I would also encourage them to learn a little bit more even about the photobiomodulation, because right now, if you look at professional athletes, we're actually dealing with several professional teams that are interested in putting all of these modalities, because what we can do after, where you're tearing down muscles and you're creating lactic acid, molecular hydrogen, PBM, there's a lot of it that helps you recover 2x, 3x, 4x. And I think Mitch, what that means to a professional athlete. If they can recover sooner, they can come back and play considerably better. So I have a feeling I'm working with the neurologist that does the U.S. Olympics. So we're trying to introduce it everywhere. Again, the emphasis is educate the doctors, but it's doing very well. So again, just keep learning and educating yourself on these different treatments, and you'll understand why. If you can afford it, we look forward to getting it into your hands.
Super. Darren, last words for us.
3 categories that we look at for help. One is chronic disease. Next is anti-aging longevity. And then the third is sports recovery. And this fits into every one of those. This fits into someone in their home. This fits into a sports team. This fits into a medical practice. This fits into a hospital. There's a place for every single one of these things. We live in a stress-filled world. So the days of just eating right and exercising are over. You have to do more. You have to be able to combat the stress. We all know that stress is the killer. It's the number one killer. And we have to be able to combat that. And with this technology, we can reverse those stresses. And that's the real big deal. And I don't care whether you're chronically ill or you're just someone that wants to stay long for a good quality life, because it's not just about longevity, it's about quality of life. And that's a really, really important fact. For myself, my dad died when I was 15 years old, so he was 42. I want to live a good quality life. I don't want to be the average 16 years of pain the last 16 years of life. That's not for me. For me, I want to have quality every single day until the last days. And that's what I hope for everybody else. So whether you deal with a chronic condition and you want to get better and enjoy the quality of life, or you want to maintain that quality of life, or you're a professional athlete, you want to stay healthy and have a long career and then not be in pain afterwards, we have some technology that can help you.
Well said, both of you, and I really appreciate it. It is all about quality, folks. Quantity will follow quality. You want to feel good. You want to get up and do your job every day. You want to have purpose for life. If you want more information, you can go directly to the website, HueLightUSA.com. That's HueLight, USA.com. And there's numbers there, people to talk to. You may say, look, I may not be able to afford to have it in my house. I feel so privileged to have some of this equipment in my house and looking to get more. But if you can, we'll help you find a healthcare provider in your area that has this equipment that you can avail yourself of. For healthcare practitioners watching this, you're going to have questions. If you'd like to come to a free seminar and learn a lot more about it, which we call basically Optimal Health 360, Roberto is the person to talk to. And again, just by going to the website, calling in, or leaving your information, someone will get back to you. Roberto's extremely, extremely good at getting back to you. I hope this was informative for all of you, and you realize there is something more that we now have. Basically, the technology of tomorrow is here today. Thank you for watching the Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Mitch Ghen for Hue Light USA.